today to everyone, to especially the students from my hometown of Endwell. I was born and raised just a few blocks from here in Endwell. I was a paper boy at the Press and Sun Bulletin, and I spent my summers in college working at the old IBM plant. It was a tough time in the 90s. My brother lost his job, so many friends and family lost their jobs and moved out of state to find employment. I couldn't disagree with the congressman more about the current situation here in New York State when he had said things are going much better here than the rest of the country. Statistics show that since he's been in office, we've shed 50% of our manufacturing jobs. Look around. We all have family and friends that we wish could be here but can't because of the economic situation. I know a lot of our problems are in Albany, but Washington is piling it on. I have a few brief questions for you to think about, and they've been in our signs and they've been part of our campaign. They've spent and spent in Washington. They've racked up a $14 trillion national debt that's forfeiting our future, our children's future, and our grandchildren's future. Have you had enough? We have Congress passing massive bills that they don't even read, like the health care bill. It's full of taxes and fees that are going to put more strain on our economy and are already putting more strain on our businesses. Have you had enough? And the situation here, we continue to struggle. More taxes are on the way to pay for the spending spree. We keep losing jobs. We keep struggling here. Have you had enough? My opponent has one of the lowest rankings in the entire United States Congress on business issues by the United States Chamber of Commerce ranking. He's in the bottom 4%. There's only a handful of 435 members that have a lower ranking than him in the chamber. We need to work to get this economy going again here, and we need strong leadership. I believe the massive federal deficits and the massive national debt are the centerpiece of our problems. Why are the 3 wealthiest counties in the country right now in the Washington, D.C. suburbs? Why do we keep shedding jobs here? Why do we have politicians talking about all these small projects that they're bringing in when jobs are still leaving? We need to go after Washington waste right now. I'm offering a bold plan for America. I hope to be a leader in this new Congress from day one, and I think we need to do 3 primary things. 1, scour the federal government for waste and inefficiencies. The federal government needs an audit, similar to what the Reagan-era Grace Commission did. They found billions in government waste. Number 2, we need to consolidate and eliminate government agencies and merge agencies to cut back on costs. We could still provide important functions like federal influence in education, like federal influence in a variety of areas, but there's layers of bureaucracy that we need to cut past. And number 3, we need to roll back this current spending spree. When we do that, we'll have tax relief that we need for our small businesses, for our individuals. We need to lift up the entrepreneurial spirit that made this area great for so long that is now in peril. Thank you.
Questions. There's 2 minutes for each of you to answer. So the first question involves the extension of tax cuts. It is one of the most hotly debated issues, whether to extend the Bush-era tax cuts. There have been some agreement that these tax cuts should be extended for the middle class, if only temporarily. Proposals have ranged from letting all the tax cuts expire at the end of the year or extending the tax cuts for a period of 1 to 2 years. Where the ideological arguments seem to come in place is whether to extend those tax cuts on the wealthy or those with incomes of $250,000 or more annually. Please state your position on the issue and specifically what proposal you would support. And again, we will start with George Phillips.
Well, thank you. This is a critical issue that I think it's very sad, and it's not just that Congress failed to act on it before they went into recess. This is something our businesses are counting on continued low taxes, not low taxes, but the continued existing tax code. And I think it is very sad that this Congress failed to act on it. Go back to President Kennedy in the 1960s. Those tax cuts got the economy going. The Reagan tax cuts in the 80s got the economy going. We need to not just keep existing tax law in place, but we need lower taxes. Look at IBM. We still have IBM here in the area, but it's not what it was. We have a mid 40% tax rate now on our businesses and corporations in New York State here. IBM went over to Ireland, where it was a 12% corporate tax rate. I disagree strongly with my opponent who's criticizing me, saying that I want to outsource jobs overseas. I believe all the high taxes he's been voting for, the largest tax increases in our nation's history that he voted for when he came into office, are driving those jobs overseas. Lower taxes are going to help the economy here and help create jobs. Government doesn't create jobs. Look at this failed stimulus program, almost $1 trillion in waste that, again, my opponent said he wished spent another $1 trillion. we have not created the jobs we needed coming out of this recession here. We need to, as I said again, lift up that entrepreneurial spirit. Raising taxes on small businesses is the worst thing that we could possibly do in this economy. And again, I put the blame on Congress for not acting on tax relief. Under our bold plan for America, I believe we could save billions and billions in waste in Washington. We could shore up our massive federal deficits, and at the same time we could get more tax relief to help get this economy going again. Thank you. Living in the past. He continues to want to talk about President Bush and the previous administration. There is plenty of blame to go around, but right now we have a Democrat Congress for the last 4 years. We have a Democrat president. I think both parties are to blame for our current predicament, but we need solutions. We need to stop the people who are just going to play the blame game and live in the past. Manufacturing jobs are down 50% in this area since he's been in office. Our businesses are hurting. He didn't even answer the question about infrastructure development. And I think one of the things that's a telltale sign is how dysfunctional the federal government is. It was 3 years ago, I was at a chamber event, and there was a skit here about Route 17, the future I-86. This has been going on for over a decade. And if you remember, those who were here from the chamber, it was, we're getting pretty close, I-86, but pretty darn soon, I-86. What is the federal government doing? Why have we not been able to complete this project for over a decade? It shows how inept the federal government is right now. In terms of infrastructure development, the question that was asked, I do believe it has an important role, but the problem is if you look at the stimulus programs, the failed stimulus, so many of the roads that were improved upon were pet projects for members of Congress. I drive down to see my family, my wife's family in Baltimore, and we'd see roads that were fine, that were rebuilt under this Infrastructure Act because they were in districts of senior members of Congress who were trying to get jobs in their district. It wasn't what was best for the country. What I believe we need is an infrastructure commission looking at the needs of this country. Where do we need to invest? Where could the money be best spent to build the infrastructure up? That was the question that was asked. That's what needs to be done. The stimulus for the hundreds of billions of dollars that was spent, it's hardly created any jobs. So I oppose that type of approach. Let's get smart. Let's be efficient with taxpayer money. Let's just stop throwing money out the door here that we've been doing. Let's stop reading bills, passing bills that we don't even bother to read. Thank you. The telltale sign was a conversation I had with a friend who's at a major healthcare insurance provider. He said the top people in the company still don't understand the healthcare bill. This was a bill that Congress didn't read, that they rushed through. It was over 2,000 pages long. What's happening with small business now? Almost every small business owner I've talked to said their rates are going up under this new bill. And we're going to have taxes coming in that were referred to on the first of the year. Taxes on even a contractor making $600 a year is going to have to fill out IRS forms. Thousands of new IRS agents. This was the wrong thing for our country right now. The sad thing about the debate was so many good ideas came to the forefront. My opponent, Maurice Hinchey, was one of the only members in the entire United States Congress to not have a healthcare town hall meeting. And I decided to have one when he time and time again refused. When he did not, his staff put out statements saying that he would not have a healthcare town hall meeting. He did not go and listen to his constituents. I did, and I listened to the concerns of the community. And two very important things that didn't make it into the bill that would help tremendously are one, more choice in health insurance. Our young people here, you're getting your driver's license, you're going into your parents' car insurance. They could choose whatever car insurance they want. There's great flexibility and choice in car insurance. Why not health insurance? Why do we have such limits in types of insurance that you can pick? Your employer usually says you have plan A or plan B. Let's have choice across state lines. More choice, more competition, that's going to drive costs down. We need medical malpractice reform. I did my graduate degree at Notre Dame, and I was out there recently. A friend said, look at this law firm over here. He's a lawyer at this firm. The only suits they'll take are $20 million lawsuits or more. These are the things that are driving up our costs. We needed to shore up Medicare and Medicaid. My opponent the other day said these two programs were in fine shape, and nothing could be further from the truth. Congressman, who's chairman of the Veterans Affairs Committee, who worked on the modern version of the GI Bill. And for those the students who've studied American history, it is the most successful, in my opinion, government program in history, putting millions of Americans in college. We still need to maintain a federal role in education. We need federal assistance in helping out with student loans, with grants. I think one of the biggest issues right now that your parents face as you're getting ready to go to college are those costs. I think we should have more tax credits in place for parents who are trying, middle class, trying to get their kids into college. These are some of the things that we need to do. Again, I am very upset with my opponent saying I wanted to abolish the Department of Education. I do believe we need to cut through layers of bureaucracy in education, but we need an important role, not just for our primary schools, but for college. This is the most important thing that we can invest in, our children's future here, and I will be strong on education issues. Thank you. Social Security is going to be running deficits soon. We have a big crunch here, and I think it's years of neglect from Congress that is causing this. The congressional spending spree, the massive budget deficits, the out-of-control debt has amounted to what we call a raid on the Social Security Trust Fund. Money that was put into Social Security that should have been set aside for later generations was spent on pet projects for members of Congress. It was spent on other programs, and Congress is to blame for it. We need to stop the raid on the Social Security Trust Fund. We need to set aside that money as the baby boomers are retiring for future generations. I oppose privatizing Social Security in the stock market. Social Security could be put into government investments in banks, in government bonds, and things that get us a little bit better return, but absolutely not on privatizing in the stock market. And why are we taxing Social Security? Maurice Hinchey voted for Social Security taxes. Why do you pay your whole life into the Social Security program, and it's a very low threshold that you then have to pay taxes on those benefits? It's not right. At the beginning, I do believe we need to move forward with natural gas drilling here in New York State with tough environmental standards. I do strongly support ending that loophole so companies have to disclose what they put in the groundwater. I do think we should get the state standards here to protect drinking water. We've had other states go forward. We can learn from their models. What I disagree with strongly is my opponent's bill, the FRAC Act. He says it would just do clean drinking water. We can do that on the state level. It does much more than that. Nonpartisan analysis have said that this bill would require the EPA, the federal government, to be involved in the permit process. They've never done this before. They don't have the personnel and the capacity to do this. His bill is a job killer. It would delay the process for years. And we're hearing now that he's trying to pass his bill in a lame duck session of Congress after the election. This is critical for our area here. We can and need to move forward on it. We can do it with sound environmental standards. And I wish my opponent would come clean about his bill, but it is designed to delay and hurt the process, and it will hurt our economy further here.